They tell you to look on the bright side. They tell you that everything happens for a reason and that you just need to manifest a better outcome. But sometimes, when you are standing in the wreckage of a bad day or a broken heart, looking at the bright side does not help. In fact, it often makes the dark side feel even darker. You might find yourself wanting to scream when someone tells you to just smile. This reaction does not make you a cynic, and it certainly does not make you ungrateful. It simply makes you human. We live in a culture that prioritizes happiness above all else. We treat positivity as a moral obligation and negativity as a failure of character. If you are sad, you are not trying hard enough. If you are anxious, you simply need to change your mindset. This constant pressure to maintain a facade of endless optimism is what psychologists call toxic positivity. It is the belief that no matter how difficult or painful a situation is, people should maintain a positive mindset. While this sounds noble on the surface, it is actually a recipe for emotional exhaustion. To understand why this approach fails, we have to look at how the human brain processes suppression. There is a famous psychological concept known as the white bear effect. If you are told to sit in a room for 5 minutes and think about anything you want, except for a white bear, guess what happens? You will think about the white bear constantly. To ensure you are not thinking about it, your brain has to keep checking to see if the thought is there. This monitoring process actually keeps the forbidden thought active in your mind. The same dynamic applies to emotions. When you tell yourself that you must not feel sad or that you must not be angry, your brain enters a hyper-vigilant state. It constantly scans your internal landscape for signs of sadness or anger so it can push them away. This ironically amplifies the very emotion you are trying to avoid. By refusing to acknowledge the feeling, you grant it more power. You are not eliminating the negativity, you are simply trapping it inside a pressure cooker. It helps to visualize emotional suppression like holding a beach ball underwater. As long as you are standing in the pool holding the ball down, you appear to be fine. The surface of the water is calm, but underneath, you are exerting a tremendous amount of muscular effort. You're tense, rigid, and tired. The moment your focus slips, the ball shoots up out of the water with far more force than if you had just let it float nearby. Toxic positivity is the act of holding that ball down and smiling while your arms shake from the effort. We can see the consequences of this dynamic in several recurring patterns in adult life. The first and most damaging pattern is the cycle of secondary emotions. This is when you feel bad about feeling bad. Let's say you are experiencing a bout of loneliness. That is the primary emotion. It is painful, but it is a natural human experience. However, if you subscribe to toxic positivity, you immediately judge yourself for that loneliness. You tell yourself you should be grateful for what you have. Now you feel guilty for being lonely. The guilt is the secondary emotion. You have effectively doubled your suffering. A second pattern appears in our social interactions, particularly in how we support friends. When someone shares a struggle, the toxic positivity reflex is to immediately offer perspective. We say things like, "Well, at least you still have your health," or "It could be so much worse." We think we are being helpful, but we are actually engaging in invalidation. We are telling the other person that their pain is not big enough to warrant attention. This shuts down connection. The friends stop sharing because they feel unseen, and you miss the opportunity to offer genuine empathy. The third pattern is the curation of the digital self. In the age of social media, we are often the directors of our own public relations campaigns. We post the highlight reel, the promotions, the vacations, the smiling selfies. We hide the panic attacks, the rejections, and the days we cannot get out of bed. This creates a dissonance between who we are and who we present to the world. You might get hundreds of likes on a photo, but you feel lonelier than ever because you know those people are validating a mask, not the real you. You begin to fear that if people saw the less polished version of you, they would turn away. It is crucial to distinguish between healthy optimism and toxic positivity. Healthy optimism is rooted in reality. It acknowledges that the situation is difficult, but it holds on to the hope that you have the resources to cope. It says, "This is really hard, and I am going to get through it." Toxic positivity denies reality. It says, "This isn't hard at all, everything is fine." Optimism empowers you to act. Toxic positivity requires you to dissociate. So, how do we dismantle this framework without becoming consumed by negativity? We need practical tools that foster acceptance rather than avoidance. The first tool is a simple semantic shift. Stop using the phrase, "it's fine," when it is not. Instead, try a statement that combines realism with resilience. Say, "This is a difficult situation, but I will manage it." This phrasing does two things. It validates the reality of the stress, which lowers your internal alarm system, and it affirms your capability, which builds confidence. You are telling the truth to yourself, and the truth is grounding. The second tool is known as the "and" technique, which is drawn from dialectical thinking. Our brains often want to think in binary terms. Either I am happy or I am ungrateful. Either I am strong or I am weak. The "and" technique allows two seemingly opposite truths to exist at the same time. You can say, "I am grateful for my job, and I am exhausted by the workload." You can say, "I love my partner, and I am really angry at them right now." By replacing the word "but" with "and," you stop canceling out your own feelings. You make room for the complexity of the human experience. The third tool is for your relationships. When a friend comes to you with a problem, pause your instinct to fix it or paint a silver lining around it. Instead, try validating the pain before you offer a solution. Use a phrase like, "It makes sense that you feel that way," or simply, "That sounds really heavy." Often, people do not need a solution, they need a witness. Once they feel heard, their own nervous system will regulate, and they will likely find the bright side on their own. You cannot force someone into the light. You can only sit with them in the dark until their eyes adjust. There is a pervasive myth that focusing on negative emotions acts like a magnet, attracting bad luck or negative outcomes into your life. This is a misunderstanding of how psychology works. Acknowledging a flat tire does not cause more flat tires. It simply allows you to change the wheel. Ignoring the flat tire because you don't want to manifest negativity leaves you stranded on the side of the road. Emotions are data. They are information about your needs, your boundaries, and your environment. When you refuse to read the data because it isn't positive, you are navigating your life blindfolded. Consider the example of someone going through a breakup. They might plaster their mirror with affirmations about how happy they are being single. They might force themselves to go out every night. They might ban their friends from mentioning the ex. For a few weeks, this might work, but eventually the grief will catch up. It might show up as irritability at work, insomnia, or a sudden breakdown over a lost set of keys. Compare this to someone who allows the grief in. They spend a weekend crying on the couch. They tell their friends, "I am really sad, and I miss them." They do not wallow forever, but they visit the pain. Because they process the emotion, it passes. It flows through them like a weather system. 6 months later, this person is genuinely ready to move on, while the first person is still exhausting themselves trying to hold the beach ball underwater. Your negative emotions are not enemies to be defeated. They are messengers to be heard. Anger tells you that a boundary has been crossed. Sadness tells you that you have lost something valuable. Anxiety tells you that you care about the outcome. When you silence these messengers in the name of positivity, you lose access to vital wisdom about who you are and what you need. True resilience is not about feeling good all the time. It is about the ability to feel everything: the joy, the grief, the rage, and the peace without falling apart. It is the capacity to expand your emotional container so that you don't have to shrink your life to fit a narrow definition of happiness. As you move through your week, pay attention to the moments when you police your own feelings. Catch yourself when you apologize for crying or when you force a laugh to make others comfortable. Ask yourself a simple question: am I trying to be happy or am I trying to be real? Happiness is a wonderful guest, but it comes and goes. Authenticity is the house you live in. Make sure it has room for all of you.